The advanced trick, hide your face. Option B, head under the blanket. Our objective is to teach the dog to push his head under a blanket while you're at least 1 metre away. The prerequisite is that your dog has good nose targeting skills and is keen to find his reward. You will need a blanket which has sufficient substance to enable the dog to burrow underneath it. You can start by having your dog nose target a container. Be sure to mark while his nose is still in the container, and you can also increase the value by rewarding in the container itself. Hold the container progressively lower. Next, place the container under the edge of the blanket and then progressively move it further under the blanket. As you take the container further under the blanket, you can create a little tunnel to help him get his head under it. As he goes further under the blanket, put more emphasis on delivering the reward under the blanket too. You can quickly move to bringing the container and the reward in from the back of the blanket. This will encourage him to burrow deeper and to remain under the blanket longer. Throwing the treat away gives you an opportunity to reset and for the dog to make that burrowing activity again. Then you can discontinue use of the container but maintain a very high rate of reward for the dog maintaining his position under the blanket. Once the behaviour is well established, you can slow down your rate of reward. Next, you can progressively accustom the dog to your being further away from him and from the blanket. As you do this, continue to reward from the back of the blanket and underneath the blanket. Increasing the dog's distance from the blanket can help to increase momentum, but just remember to help him if he actually ends up on top of rather than underneath it. As an alternative to starting with a container, you can place a treat under the edge of a blanket. Let your dog see you place it there, then cue him to get it. Placing the reward under the blanket both builds the dog's understanding and his confidence of putting his head in this strange place. Again, you can then start to deliver the treat from the back of the blanket so that he has to burrow further under to get it. This is building his understanding that it's safe to have your head under the blanket, and it's also building duration for remaining there for longer. The next step is to move to intermittent withdrawal of the reward and then taking it back in slowly. Again, you're building duration without the necessity for the dog to actually be getting the reward for the whole time. This is a similar approach again beginning with delivering the reward under the front edge of the blanket, gradually building his confidence of being under there and building duration as well, and then moving on to delivering the reward from the back of the blanket. While no duration is specified for this trick, having some duration makes it more certain that the action will be clear to the judge. Another approach is to use a remote treat dispenser. This helps create a small tunnel and also enables you to move further away more quickly. This follows a very similar process, having the edge of the treat dispenser at the front edge of the blanket to start with, and then progressively moving it further and further back, so the dog has to burrow further under and remain under for longer. Depending on your dog and how you are thinking of combining this with one of the other options in the trick, consider quite early how you are going to get your dog to approach the blanket. For instance, crawling as in this case, or standing and moving forward and then bending to put his head under the blanket. This element isn't prescribed, so it's a matter of working out what works best for your dog. Again, you build up to being able to send your dog to put his head under the blanket while you remain 1 meter away. Now, pulling together the key elements of the trick. For the setup, the blanket will be placed on the ground. The dog will be in a stance of your choice, and you'll be at least 1 meter away from the dog. You can give a verbal cue and or a hand signal to cue the dog to go and push his head under the blanket. The trick will be complete when the dog has clearly pushed his head under the blanket. This trick can be a component of the hide your face trick, combined with option A or C. Now some examples of the advanced trick, hide your face from 1 meter, option B, head under blanket.